This video is going to be about what does the Bible have to say about child abuse. Okay, I'm going to start off with Jesus, okay, Matthew 10:21 to 23. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. Truly I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. So Jesus is saying, by supporting Jesus, you're going to get persecuted by everybody, including your own family. And if you get persecuted in one place, then go to another town of Israel. And keep going to another town of Israel, and soon enough, the Son of Man will return. Luke 12:51 to 53. This is Jesus, right? The word of the Lord. Do you think I came to bring peace on earth? Oh, yeah, Jesus, I thought you did. No. Okay. No, I tell you, division. From now on, there will be 5 in one family divided against each other. 3 against 2, 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, son against father, mother against daughter, daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. So, Jesus isn't bringing peace? I don't know. Interesting quotes, okay? So, Exodus 21:20. You can beat your slave. If a man or woman beats his male or female slave with a rod, and the slave dies as a direct result, then that person must be punished. So if you beat the crap out of a slave to the point that they die, then then you got to be punished. So that's, I'm not for sure if that's true with children, but it is true with slaves. Now, let's look at what the Bible has to say. They say a bunch of things, right? John 13:34, this is Jesus who says, out of all the commandments, he can boil them all down to one, just love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. So, love everybody. That's interesting. That's not really congruous with child abuse. Now, the golden rule, there's one thing I got out of Christianity, and that's the golden rule. That's Matthew 7:12. Again, Jesus the Christ, the word of the Lord. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. It's the golden rule. It connects all religions together for obvious reasons. It's a central theme in being decent to one another. It's logical. It is amazingly, wonderfully logical. We don't need the Bible. You don't want bad things happen to you, don't do bad things to others. So let's look at some different random quotes about what the Bible has to say about love and anger and violence in general. The first book of John, book 4, chapter 4, verse 7 to 8. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. So again, with this love, right? We love, we treat others the way we want to be treated, love one another, don't hit, don't attack, there's not violence. Jesus didn't say go around beating the crap out of one another. Peace, love, food, not bombs, right? So Colossians chapter 3, verse 19, husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 2, a man shall eat well by the fruit of his mouth, but the soul of the unfaithful feeds on violence. So the wicked need violence, and those are damned to hell. Proverbs 3:31, do not envy a violent man, or choose any of his ways. Wow, so again, with, no violence. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 9. Don't be quick-tempered. That's being a fool. So don't get mad, don't get angry, don't attack people, don't assault people. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 11. A wise man restrains his anger and overlooks insults. This is to his credit. So again, don't be angry, don't get mad, Don't worry about the insults. Look over the insults. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 to 27. If you are angry, don't sin by nursing your grudge. Don't let the sun go down with you still angry. Get over it quickly. For when you are angry, you give a mighty foothold to the devil. Proverbs 16:32. It's better to be slow-tempered than famous. It is better to have self-control than to control an army. Psalms 103:8. The Lord is merciful and gracious, and He's slow to anger and abounding in mercy. God is merciful. He doesn't get angry and mad. He's merciful and gracious. First book of Corinthians, chapter 13, verse 5. Love does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 9. Don't repay evil for evil. Don't snap back at those who say unkind things about you. Instead, pray for God's help for them, for we are to be kind to others, and God will bless us for it. Proverbs 30:33. For as churning the milk produces butter, and as twisting the nose produces blood, so stirring up anger produces strife. Don't be angry. Don't stir up anger. Don't use violence. Love. Be kind to it. This seems to be a reoccurring theme here. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. It's good stuff. Give soft answers to turn away anger. But to meet anger with anger, that only creates more. Colossians chapter 3, verse 21. Fathers, don't scold your children so much that they become discouraged and quit trying. Well, that's interesting. Colossians 3:21. Don't scold your children so much that they become discouraged and quit trying. Fantastic. I don't hear Christians say that too much. Deuteronomy 6:6-7. These commandments I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Have dialogue with your children, conversations with your children. Don't just use violence and terrorism and traumatize them, but actually talk to them. Ephesians 6:4. And now a word to you parents. Don't keep on scolding and nagging your children, making them angry and resentful. Rather, bring them up with the loving discipline the Lord Himself approves, with suggestions and godly advice. So don't hit the kids. Don't make them angry and resentful, but love them. Love them. This isn't the Bible American Christians are talking about, okay? Luke chapter 18:16-17. Then Jesus called the children over to Him and said to the disciples, let the little children come to me. Never send them away, for the kingdom of God belongs to men who have hearts as trusting as these little children's. And anyone who doesn't have their kind of faith will never get within the kingdom's gates. So, Jesus didn't just use violence whenever He saw a kid. He didn't just get a switch off a tree and hurry up with the discipline. He didn't introduce lifelong trauma to them, creating a bunch of savages who sees that violence is a-okay. So Proverbs is talking about good wives. If you can find a truly good wife, she is worth more than precious gems. Proverbs 31:26. When she speaks, her words are wise, and kindness is a rule for everything that she says. So, people say, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, what are you supposed to be like? Well, according to the Bible, the way that the women, the wives, if you can find a truly good wife, she's worth more than precious gems. Her husband can trust her, and she will richly satisfy his needs. She's energetic, a hard worker, and watches for bargains. She works far into the night. She sows for the poor and generously gives to the needy. She's a woman of strength and dignity and has no fear of old age. When she speaks, her words are wise, and kindness is the rule for everything she says. She watches carefully all that goes on throughout her household and is never lazy. Her children stand and bless her, so does her husband. He watches carefully all that goes on throughout her household. She is, okay? So does her husband. He praises her with these words, the husband does. There are many fine women in the world, but you are the best of them all. So that's interesting. And then that's how husbands should treat a wife. And wives, according to Ephesians 5:22-24, you wives must submit to your husband's leadership in the same way you submit to the Lord. Okay, well let's. Anyways, God also doesn't like injustice. Deuteronomy 16:19. Do not pervert justice or show partiality. Don't accept a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the words of the righteous. So that our entire U.S. political system, that's our entire political system. Big money controls politics. There's legal bribes in everywhere. Everybody takes legal bribes. Please donate to my campaign. Legal bribes. Because, money is speech. When your boss gives you a weekly paycheck, you say, hey, man, good speech, bro. Your oratory skills are impressive. God is sick of the injustice. You have Habakkuk 1:3. Why do you make me look at injustice? This is God. Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrong? Destruction and violence are before me. There is strife and conflict abounds. So, no strife, no violence. Habakkuk, he was a prophet 612 BC. He's the 8th of the 12 collected minor prophets in the Hebrew Bible. Nothing's known about Habakkuk except what's in the Bible. Even the origin of his name is unknown. He's assumed to have preached in Jerusalem. Habakkuk, why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrong? Destruction and violence are before me. There is strife and conflict abounds. Romans 12:21. Don't let evil get the upper hand, but conquer evil by doing good. Alright, so over and over again, the Bible says, love, be kind, be generous, right? Save your money, look for bargains. Now, people have said this one quote over and over again, and it's wrong. What do they say? The opposition. They say, of course the Bible sanctions slavery. Stoning a wife for adultery. Child abuse. Because spare the rod, spoil the child. I've heard this bullshit so many times, and it's 100% wrong. Spare the rod, spoil the child. There is no spoil the child. That phrase is not in the Bible. You cannot find that phrase, spoil the child, in the Bible. I've even heard, be glad you had a parent who beats you. I've also heard it's best for children to be seen but not heard. And then, if you don't discipline your kid, you don't really love them. So I could kind of see what they're saying. If you're not molded by somebody, then you're just, a wild beast. So you gotta, or maybe you're a docile nothing, not ever knowing how to be. But I like Rousseau's way. He says, make the child strong until about 10 years old, and then get the child to conform to society. But spare the rod, spoil the child. Is that going to be used for everybody? There's variations of that. There is no spoil the child. Okay? But if we spare the rod, aren't we spoiling everybody? If we spare the rod, we're spoiling the parents, we're spoiling the criminal, we're spoiling the neighbors, spoiling the friends and family. If we're not beating the shit out of everybody, if we're not beating the hell out of everybody, then everybody's being spoiled. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Spare the rod, spoil the president. Spare the rod, spoil the judges. Spare the rod, spoil the cops. Let us all make sure none of us are spoiled. Let's just get out our rods and just beat the hell out of one another. So their best argument, spare the rod, spoil the child, it's not even in the Bible. In Proverbs, they got, different things, but let's read a couple of what Proverbs says. Proverbs has, different, they have those who spare the rod hate their children, but those who love them are diligent to discipline them. You got to be diligent and discipline them. If you don't have a distinction between abuse and discipline, it's all abuse. Proverbs 22:15, foolishness is bound in the heart of the child, but the rod of discipline will drive it far from him. Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you punish him, because it's always a boy, right, with the rod, he will not die. Proverbs 23:13. So they say things close to, what it is. what they mean by spare the rod, spoil the child. But this is Proverbs of Solomon, so this is just a collection of a whole bunch of just quotes from all over the place. Solomon might have come up with some of them, but it's just a collection of collections of just good quotes, right? Here's a book of quotes. Proverbs 13:24. This is the actual quote, okay? So just pay attention, because those other, quotes did not say spoil the child. At no point. That part is not in the Bible. That's a bullshit lie. Here is the quote that everybody talks about, but they don't say it correctly. Proverbs 13:24. This is the King James Version. King James, who was a homosexual. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasten him betimes. Who the hell talks like that? He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. So you got the spare the rod thing, but it doesn't say spoil the child. And the reason why is because the spoil the child part, it didn't come from the Bible. It didn't originate from the Bible. It actually came from a 1600 poem by Samuel Butler, the poem called Hudibras. And in the poem, spanking is mockingly commended as a way to make Hudibras, who's the main character in the poem with the same name, his love will grow stronger for the widow if he's spanked like a child. So Hudibras and the widow that he longs for are planning to start a love affair, but before the widow commits to it, she asks Hudibras to commit some twisted acts. She says, if matrimony and hanging go by destiny, which is what? Hanging and matrimony go together, why not whipping too? What medicine else can cure the fits of lovers when they lose their wits? Love is a boy by poets styled, then spare the rod and spoil the child. So they're mocking the idea that this is a terrible idea. This does not go with love. They're just kind of saying, God, love is... Anyway, so spare the rod, spoil the child does not come from the Bible. No place can you find spoil a child. It's not in the Bible. So people say that's in the Bible. They're liars. They've never read the Bible. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Proverbs 13:2 also said, from the fruit of his lips a man enjoys good things, but the unfaithful have a craving for violence. So the unfaithful, right, those bound for hell, they love violence. Proverbs 16:29, a violent man entices his neighbors and leads him down a path that is not good. So don't be jealous of a violent. Don't do what violent people do. Again, over and over again, violence is wrong. Matthew 26:52. Put your sword back in its place, Jesus said to him, for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. This is according to the Gospel of Matthew. This is the word of the Lord, chapter 26, verse 52. So Jesus is getting arrested, and St. Paul pulls out a sword to defend Jesus. But Jesus says, those who draw the sword will die by the sword. And so Jesus gets arrested peacefully. Now, I don't take too much stock in the Bible. I really like Gandhi, and I really like Martin Luther King Jr. These people are like Jesus Christ on earth, right? So let's hear what Gandhi has to say. Gandhi says that there's two kinds of power. One is obtained by the fear of punishment, and the other by arts of love. Power based on love is 1,000 times more effective and permanent than the one derived from fear of punishment. Machiavelli says that fear is stronger than love. So for the short-term effect, for the immediate effect, sure. But for the long-term effect, Gandhi says that love conquers all. Isn't that beautiful? That's fantastic. Matthew 5:22. Jesus says, but I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whoever says to his brother, Raka, which apparently means idiot or empty-headed, shall be in the danger of the council. But whoever says, you fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. So what? What does all this mean? This is the conclusion. So James Holmes, he killed a bunch of kids in Colorado, 20 kids, I think, who are probably getting spanked and beat up at home. 80% of Americans believe in corporal punishment. But James Holmes, who murdered kids, he doesn't get attacked or assaulted or spanked in prison. In fact, he's got protective custody. So he gets extra protection to protect him from violence. James Holmes gets more protection from violence than adults than children, most children in America. Over and over again, the Bible preaches love, conversation, dialogue. You don't just attack children just for the sake of attacking them. So I got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John on my side. Jesus is on my side. Colossians, Corinthians, Deuteronomy, Ephesians, Romans, Proverbs, Gandhi, MLK, Habakkuk. And the only thing that they got is a quote that's not even in the Bible. Spoil the child, not even there. Jesus talked about nonviolence and love and compassion. Christians can do better if they actually quoted Jesus Christ and not Samuel Butler of the 1600s. Now, there's a lot of dumb shit in the Bible. You're not allowed to wear two different fabrics of clothing. Leviticus says you're going to go to hell if you wear a cotton and polyester blend. Forever you're going to burn in the lake of fire. Also, the Bible's got a talking donkey. There's a donkey that's saying, hey, why do you keep on hitting me? And then there's a snake that says to Eve, go ahead and eat the apple. So that's, fiction. That's never happened. Jesus killed the fig tree because it didn't produce fruit, which seems pretty petty. And what the hell, Jesus? What the hell? Jesus threw a temper tantrum, right? Jesus should have blamed God for making that fig tree, because that fig tree, it was barren. I'm sure it tried to produce fruit, but since it didn't produce fruit, so now it doesn't have offspring, now Jesus had, killed it and took it. So what is that about? So there's a lot of crazy things when it comes to the Bible. So, I think ultimately just using logic and reason, the golden rule is incredibly logical. It's fantastic. Now, I want to list off the list of countries that have banned corporal punishment around the world. And it's a bunch of them. Japan says no child abuse. Georgia, South Africa, France, no child abuse. Republic of Kosovo, Nepal, Lithuania, Mongolia, Montenegro, Paraguay, Slovenia, Benin, Ireland, Peru, Andorra, Estonia, Nicaragua, San Marino, Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Malta, Cabo Verde, Honduras, North Macedonia, South Sudan, Albania, Congo, the Republic of Congo, Kenya, Tunisia, Poland, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Republic of Moldova, Costa Rica, Togo, Spain, Venezuela, Uruguay, Portugal, New Zealand, the Netherlands, Greece, Hungary, Romania, Ukraine, Iceland, Turkmenistan, Germany, Israel, Bulgaria, Croatia, Latvia, Denmark, Cyprus, Austria, Norway, Finland, Sweden. What is that, about 50 to 100 countries, and then a whole bunch of territories too, Aruba, Faroe Islands, Guadeloupe, Martinique, and some other ones. So there's a lot of countries throughout the world that says that child abuse is wrong. They're banning corporal punishment, so no abusing children. I haven't met too many people in America who says child abuse is wrong. I read a statistic that said 80% of Americans believe in corporal punishment. And so violence against kids, I'm the only one against abusing children. I'm the only one. So child abuse seems to be America's favorite pastime. Baseball is going down. Baseball is a dying sport, but, Americans hit their kids. Americans hit their kids. You're not supposed to, and it's illegal. But there's a Kentucky police officer that once told a mother of a child who, they got called for abuse, and it says, you can hit your kids, just don't leave a mark on them. Is that the rule? There was one man, so it wasn't, but it's just few and far between. I did meet one man in a bar in Gent, Kentucky, about 10 years ago, and he said he raised his kid without ever having to hit him. And it was awesome. It, gave me some validation, because I knew it could be done. It could be done. I speculated it. But after I talked to him, I knew it could be done. Violence begets violence, and that is also not a biblical quote. Violence begets violence. That started in 1830s. The Bible may say anger begets anger, but violence begets violence. This is brand new, so let's end this off with Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King is fantastic. Talk about another Jesus Christ here on earth, a real life Jesus Christ. So Martin Luther King Jr., he said this: hate begets hate. Violence begets violence. Toughness begets a greater toughness. We must meet the forces of hate with the power of love. Our aim must never be to defeat or humiliate the white man, but to win his friendship and understanding. The ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting to the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, and something about violence and a liar. You may murder the liar, but you cannot murder the lie, nor establish the truth. Through violence you may murder the hater, but you do not murder hate. In fact, violence merely increases hate. Returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. That's a fantastic quote. Instead of abusing and attacking and traumatizing our children, in the short term, if you have a right to defend yourself and to defend others. If your kids are attacking other people, you have a right to restrain them. But just to hit your child and say, God, I feel good because I get my aggression out. It feels so good. To enjoy it, it should always hurt you worse than it hurts them. That phrase should always hold true. If you ever say, you ever enjoy it, you've crossed over into a different realm. You're supposed to love your child and bring them up to be strong and be able to. So if you're enjoying it, then you're a sadist. You're sick. You enjoy hurting others. You enjoy inflicting pain upon others. It's not just schadenfreude. You're not just enjoying the pain and misery. You're actually causing the pain and misery of others. So, is there any other quotes here? If you could finally find a truly good wife, Proverbs, Exodus, all the different countries that have banned child abuse, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and Matthew and Luke. So, what does the Bible say about child abuse? It does not 100% say spare the rod, spoil the child. It does not say that at all. It says over and over again, specifically about, fathers loving their wives and loving their children and not beating them to a point to where they give up. You can't beat your slave until they die. So there's a lot of parts of the Bible that contradicts the other parts. But ultimately, I think you have to use your logic and your reason. So like Martin Luther said in the Protestants, read the Bible yourself and interpret it and see what you glean from the damn thing. Over and over again it says that we should love one another. Do unto others as you have them do unto yourself. And if you don't like to get, attacked, then you shouldn't be attacking others. Right? So over and over again it says to love, to respect. It says don't get angry, don't be mad. It says the faithless are the ones who love violence. Don't follow in the path of violence. It clearly says violence isn't wrong. Violence is an evil. And so when they're talking about disciplining your kids, it's out of love. And if it ever turns into hatred, then again, you've passed a certain threshold. You passed a certain threshold, and you need to come back to reality. You need to get your humanity back. So, yeah. I guess that's it. That's the Bible. That's what the Bible says over and over again. Love. Don't attack each other. Be good to one another. Right? So don't keep on scolding and nagging your children, making them angry and resentful. Bring them up with the loving discipline. So just over and over again, it doesn't say to willy-nilly beat the shit out of your kids and to love and enjoy it and then to tell everybody else in the neighborhood to beat up their kids and to start this cabal, this little secret organization where all these parents are just secretly and telling each other and basically they're just ruining their kids. They're, screwing their kids over. So they're screwing their kids over because they want 100% of the power. They want 100% of the power. They love oppressing. It makes a slave out of them, but they're okay with that as long as they got the power. And yeah, so the Bible over and over again just says, don't be mad, don't attack each other, do unto others. If you want people to be